Well, good day everyone. How's it going? So I hope everyone's had a good week. It has been another long one, another long week. But it's nice to see things are getting better. For everyone here in Ontario at least, they have just announced a few days ago for me here, today's Tuesday for me, but they've just announced that the provincial parks are reopening their backcountry camping, which is great news. I'm super stoked for that. I've got a trip coming up in a couple, 6 weeks. So I'm really happy to be able to go back out. So for today, a couple days ago, my girlfriend and I and one of our friends, we went out to Pretty River Valley Provincial Park. It's a non-operating park now, which basically means that you can go and hike in it. It's free. If I remember correctly, you don't even need a pass to go in. Double check that though before you go, just to be safe. But yeah, so I was really excited to be able to come out, and I was actually trying to go to a spot that we'd hiked into when we were here on the weekend, but I decided to come in a different access point, and I'm actually really happy I did, because I have found myself in another one of those self-proclaimed target-rich environments. I love it. So behind me here, I've got a little stream, one of the dogs, and behind me on this side, I have one of the dogs and another river stream. And these two streams come together just behind me here, and I'm right on the Bruce Trail as well, so it's easily accessible from the Bruce Trail. So lots of little things to explore in here. So I've got all my stuff. I'm on a complete roll with the 24-70 for the last 2 weeks. It's like the only thing I've been using, especially as I said, with my new polarizer, my new ND filter. I've been just going crazy with it. So I'm going to try and find a composition in here. There's so many little waterfalls. I'm going to find something, get set up, and we're gonna go from there. So I'm gonna put you down and I'm gonna go find something, and then we'll get rolling again. That's cold water on the toes. Whoa. I'm in the icicles. All right. So, I've got my first composition here, and I'm actually quite happy with it. So, what I've done is I've got my camera in the river, or creek, and I'm working it around a 3-second exposure. I'm only using a polarizer, but I'm f11, around 35 millimeters, 40 millimeters thereabouts, and yeah, the polarizer just makes such a huge difference working with the streams and rivers. It allows you to cut all that glare off of there. It makes a huge difference. It really improves the image a lot. It brings the colors out a lot. The leaves really pop at that point because all the reflections off the surface of the leaves are gone. And it also helps with the reflections of the water on the rocks as well. So beautiful. Yeah, so I'm working here, and my foreground I have, so I'm going to turn you here. So my foreground is this rock here, and then it moves up and through here, and then in my frame I do have this back area. So you have a lot of different stuff, but the waterfall is the main feature, and all the lines kind of lead you into it. I'm really happy with how it's coming out on the camera, actually. I will say my toes are absolutely freezing from standing in this creek, it's still very cold. So, yeah, bit of a chilly morning down here. I'm going to try a couple of other compositions here and sort of work my way along. I'll catch you in a minute. Yoga girl in there? Maggie, yoga girl? Oh, yes, good girl. Stay. Hey. Good girls? Good girls? Are you enjoying your walk? Yeah, good girls. So, my thought process when I was shooting today, I do still hold to the rule of thirds a little bit. The rule of thirds do provide a good basic building system when you're making your photos. That being said, sometimes people get a little too locked into it. A lot of people think, oh, in order to make a good composition, I need to put my main subject on one of the 4 PowerPoints, one of the 4 junctions of lines in the rule of thirds. I honestly disagree with that. It's definitely a place to start from. It's definitely something to consider, but it doesn't necessarily mean that by putting your subject on one of those points that it's going to work out. Take some of the images I took today, for example. I did use the rule of thirds to an extent in my compositions. But what I did, and in a couple of compositions I've taken the last couple of days, is I used it as a base, but then I kind of shifted a little bit. So I would do something like, I'd start with my rule of third, but then I move my subject right out to sort of a corner, one of the corner sections, rather than on the point. And there are definitely people who will argue that it weakened my composition, but a lot of that depends on the rest of the scene. Like, let's say you're composing, you've got your subject right on your third, but let's also say that because of where you've put it, you have this really distracting white spot right down in the corner closest to that thing. But the rest of the scene is great, and you have a lot of room around the rest of your perimeter to work with. This is a scene where I would argue in favor of tightening the composition, either by zooming my lens, or if there's room outside of my frame on the other sides, I'll recompose it. I'll keep that subject. I might even keep it in that section of the frame, but I might move it off of the PowerPoint onto another section. Say, let's say it was the bottom, so I said it was the bottom right, I think. I move it from the bottom right PowerPoint and move it into the bottom right corner quadrant, or even just to the right along that third line. I'm still, in a sense, following the rule of thirds, but I'm no longer using the PowerPoint. But I've now eliminated that distraction in my frame, making my overall composition stronger, because the image doesn't have any distracting spots, but I'm not necessarily following the exact rule. But it works, and it looks really good. So that's what I've been doing a lot with my compositions lately. You know, it's another thing, like they say, oh, don't center the horizon in your frame. There are times where that's actually the way to go. Let's say you're on a lake, you have a really misty morning and lots of fog, and you got the reflections in the lake and the fog, and the horizon kind of disappears, but you know intrinsically it's halfway through your frame. Are you going to do a third and a third when you have some beautiful pines and some maples turning red and the frame perfectly reflected, and then a misty horizon on the edge of the lake? No. This is a scene where, yes, you could do that, but I would argue, take that composition, center your horizon. When someone looks at the photo, they're not going to know if you took that scene with the camera upside down or right side up. It creates an interesting balance or imbalance, depending on how you look at it. It really works out nicely in your favor. It just creates a very visually striking image. And that's why I would argue, don't always follow the rule of thirds. Don't always follow the pre-conscribed rules of composition. Know the rules, know them well, but don't always follow them to the letter. Bend them a little bit. Try different things. Because if you don't try different things, all your images will come out looking like they came from the same cookie cutter. And if it's a popular location, like Pretty River Provincial Park's it's popular. I've seen a couple hikers this morning. It's not necessarily every photographer's going to it. But say the Arches National Park in the United States, or Killarney Provincial Park, or Lake Country, or Lake District, in the UK. There's a lake, and I don't remember the name of it, I'm sorry. There's a lake and it has one lone tree in it. And there are so many images of these different locations. And if you follow the same rules, all the images, despite being taken on different days and being taken in different weather, all have the same basic aesthetic, with very little to differentiate them one to the next. Whereas if you break out of the mold, you try some different compositions, you try some different angles, you get down low, you get in tight, you get really far away from it, you try different things that you hadn't tried before, then your shot stands out from the crowd. It looks different, it's bold. And that's what people need to remember to do. Not enough people do this. And when they don't do this, well, all their images look the same. I can personally relate to this because I have so many images that I've captured. Every now and then I go through my catalog in Lightroom and I'm going through it and I'm like, there's so many pictures in it. So many of them are like, I've taken a lot of bad images in my day. I've learned a lot in that process though. And I've found that just in the last year, I've gone from capturing a few images every month that I liked to an image almost every week that I go, you know what? I like this image a lot. I would print it. I would put it on a calendar. I'd put it on my wall even. If my photo calendar that I make had enough pages to put every photo I've taken for this video, I would put almost all of them in so far. And it's because I've been shooting so much more, I've been practicing a lot, but I've also been trying new things, breaking the rules a little bit, bending the rules, flexing my photographic muscle a little bit. It's been so much fun, and I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to continue. As I said in last week's video, things are getting a little busier for me going forward. So I'm not going to be able to necessarily, I'm hoping to continue with my weekly video series, but it may become a bi-weekly thing, I don't know. I'm going to keep the momentum up as long as I'm able. But with the world starting to wake up a little bit and come out of isolation a little bit, don't be afraid to try all these new things. Maybe not everything I've said is true or correct. I try to keep it as true and correct as I can. But try different things. Try new perspectives. See what you find. You'll be surprised. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I hope you enjoyed the images. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back next week. Check out some of my old videos. I got lots of stuff here now. And get out there. Keep shooting. Try out all the things. Try out every composition you can find. Never stop, guys. See you guys next week, all right? Have a good one.